Hello everyone. Today we start learning the hardest part of the Java framework, and we use the Spring Boot MVC plus JPA, Hibernate, MySQL, Mustache for template engine, and try to create a simple web application. And the reason why we need to look into this topic, because there is the project. If someone need to done or already started or finished, doesn't matter. Just try to see again the different maybe the template engine and the main idea is when you're creating the web application, of course, first you need to choose the correct stack of technologies. And for your goal was to create Spring Web MVC plus JPA project using Gradle or Maven build tool. Also store data in SQL database. Choose template engine. For example, diamond leaf, free marker, page, velocity, etc. In our demo project, we using Mustache template engine. It really doesn't matter which template engine you pick. It helps to render in the server some HTML templates. And of course, we add some CRUD functionality, or just for our today goal, maybe we just create a project with single entity at the moment, and we try to use the simple functionality, like to view details and display data from database. And we see what Spring do when you using the Spring framework. You don't need to create custom select statements or SQL basic statements like select all data or delete by ID or find by ID and etc. is by default you will get when you're using the Spring framework. And Spring framework helps a lot. You don't need a lot of configuration. It's removing from the basic Java implementation a lot of boilerplate code. And when you're using the Spring framework, you need to know some basic steps, how to start learn, because here you need, I don't know, a few years to understand how the Spring framework looks like. And Spring Boot, it's a lightweight, different part of Spring framework. It's like when you would like to create some application with like a package or container where you adding your web server, database, and application server if you need it, or any other software in the single jar file, and you're able to run it anywhere. Like if you have Java installed in your any computer, you're able to just write a single command and run your all those three, like database, web server, and you have a web application or web service if you need it. Also, you're able to create. And there is, of course, a lot of more stuff. When you look in technologies, when you're creating the project, you're able to choose really a lot of stuff, a lot of different technologies. And if you're using the cloud, you're able to create a cloud project. There is a lot of we see when we're creating the project. And now we need to move into more details. What does it mean? What this term in MVC means, like model view controller. MVC design pattern, it's one of the classic design pattern when you using or creating web applications. You will always use the MVC design pattern and some different I don't know, in mobile developing you're also using MVC, or just a bit different like MVVM. It's really similar because it mimics the same, because you have the views, you have the models, you have some controller classes, and of course adding the more layers when you need to separate like business logic, and then you should create like MVVM or a different pattern. But the basic parent of the idea is the MVC design pattern. It's a main pattern which helps you to manage your project and to have really nice structure when you're creating the programs like web applications. And the main idea is when user use some page, in the server there is controller which control the models. Models is any objects, like if you have like e-commerce application that you have some product lists and you just picking some products, the controller control the product objects, and after you using your adding to basket or adding or removing from basket these functions in the controller, there is some server logic added, like a backend mimics, and you're able to control the user like functions. And in the view, you just only display the data, like views. For our web server, of course, we use HTML, but to generate the HTML pages from the server, you need template engine, because in the HTML file you're not able to add some programming logic, like to display as a list, to read some objects, and to read the Java created objects or lists. You're able only using through the template engines, and those template engines generate the view of your final result on your web browser, for example. And later, of course, we move into more details. We see the example, and it's more easier maybe understand what's happening when you're creating that structure. And now you need, of course, to know what is JPA. Here in C# maybe it's Entity Framework. In Java is Java Persistent API. As you see, Java Persistent API provides specification for persisting reading and managing data from your Java object to relation tables in the database. It's like connection between database and Java application. And how to connect like Java model to the database table. You need to create the entities, and you need to use technology which is calling like ORM, object relation mapping, and this technology using through the Hibernate. And Hibernate, of course, it's popular tool which is in Spring framework by default. When you're using the Spring JPA dependency, Spring Data JPA, you will get Hibernate plus Java Persistent API added in the single dependency. And this tool helps you to connect your database and generate database tables from your Java objects. And when you're saving your Java objects, you're able to save your object to the database. In graphic way, you see like this. You have Java class, like student, ID, first name, last name, email. You have the Hibernate technology. Of course, you need to have Java persistent APIs to mark this class with some annotations to say that here is a table with some ID, like to mean that ID is like a primary key, or mapping like some relations like one-to-many, one-to-one, and etc. And Hibernate helps to connect your database table to the Java class, and when you're saving the object, you're saving Java object into database table. A lot of magic happens. You don't need to do any other configuration. You see later when we're using this technology, you need to create only the single interface and write a single line, and you will get all functionality from the basic SQL statements, like find user by ID, for example. If you find student by ID, if you would like to find one, select all, or display all, or any functions. We'll later see in more details. And now for our view, like to display some data, we use server-side rendering technology like dynamic HTML web pages. If you would like to generate dynamically pages in server-side, you need to use template engines. By default, the Java have JSP, Java Server Pages, but this template engine is too much. A lot of says that here it's there is problem because it's like a React framework, because you're able to do anything here, and you're able to add a business logic inside this, and etc. It's really a powerful tool, but it's not helps to separate the real view. View is not to control the business logic, it's only to display the data. And JSP broken this rule, and for that reason I'm not recommend to use JSP. But of course, if you would like, be able to create JSP like to mimic real view. And of course, here it's really your choice to choose any template engine to display the view. Doesn't matter if you're using JSP, it's okay also. But it's safer to use different template engines. And Mustache template engine is really easier to learn. I looking in this Mustache template engine like only yesterday, and I only take the few to display the list and to get the single object. If you need to include something, also it's really easy to remember how to use this template engine. You don't need any auto-completion when you're using the template engines. And we'll later see how it looks like. Okay, now we're moving deeper, and if you need to learn something in Spring, I recommend that, of course, use the basic documentation, spring.io guides. And here it's it's like there is different types like web application, serverless, cloud, event-driven, reactive, microservices, batch, serverless. Here you will find the basic examples. For example, serving for any Spring MVC. Maybe it's that one. And here you will find the basic tutorial, how to use it. You're able to download this project and how to implement your application, how to create a jar file and how to run it your home page, for example. Like to create web application, simple web application starter template. And here you'll find a lot of different technologies using the Spring. As you see here, a lot of examples and different technologies using. Really hard to in single video to review all those different examples, but for our goal is to create simple web application. Another link is creating a Spring Boot application. And when you come here, if you're using IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate version, you're able to create inside the IntelliJ IDEA IDE. If you doesn't have this IDE, you have maybe IntelliJ Community version, or you have the NetBeans or Eclipse or any other tools which doesn't have the Spring initializer, because here it's like the basic the developer dependencies. Here you're able to create your project. You're picking first Gradle or Maven. First we need to choose the build tool. Really doesn't matter which one you're picking. For example, Maven is more lightweight at the moment if you use only 4 dependencies. Of course, if you create a complex project, better use Gradle. Here you're able to pick language Java, Kotlin, or Groovy. Kotlin also it's like new language for Java virtual machine. It's also a great choice. But we use the Java. And here you will find the versions of the Spring Boot. And don't think that Spring is the same as a Spring Boot. Spring Boot a bit different is to created different versions, because in Spring Framework it's like 5.1, 5.2, I'm not sure which version, and Spring Boot it's only 2.2, as you see. Spring Boot is to create fat jar, like to create a package and you just running this package and everything running when you click the button. That's why it's a Spring Boot, like when you're booting project. And here you're adding your namespace. Here it's your name for a project. Here you're choosing packaging, jar or war. Of course, better choose the jar instead of war, web archive or Java archive. Here we pick version, any version. And when you're picking this, you're able to find dependencies here, or just pick from list. And as here, as you see, the developer dependencies. Here we selecting all those. We need Spring Web, and we need, of course, template engine. We use there is no if statements, else clauses, or for loops. Instead, there is only tags. As you see, Mustache is really simple to learn. Here, Mustache. And for more, we need to use SQL. we use Spring Data JPA. As you see, persist data in SQL stores with Java persist API using Spring Data and Hibernate. That I also show that here the magic happens using entity framework. And we use MySQL. And when you choosing your dependencies and you're writing like not a demo or a product list if.Gžegoževskis product list jar Java 8 225 Java Maven 7 dependencies selected and you generating, for example. You generating Oracle Academy, new folder, for example, project demo. This dependencies, you will get your project generated. And here you're able to run this project in your IDE. Java, you'll get all structure for your project. But I use the IntelliJ Ultimate version and create the same using the IntelliJ to see that here is the same stuff added online version tool. Here it's for other users, not IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate users. Here I added more stuff inside, but at the moment we don't look at here. And now for the last theory level here, I would like to introduce in the Spring and show Spring annotations because we use in our project a few annotations and we use component, service and repository. And the difference between these annotations, that means that component, it's like if you have like Spring Framework, there is a container which holds all your created classes or like POJOs, because framework is dependent on Java POJOs, plain old Java objects. And when you're creating the POJOs is by default in Spring means beans. And those beans, when you're marking as a components, adding to this some I don't know some container, some collection container, and in this container you adding your components. Service is also component, but you need to annotate as a service layer when you saying here it's like business logic. It's like to separate your application in different layers. You need to annotate as a service layer, and we see how it looks like. At repository annotates the persistent layer, as you see, will act database repository. And that's it. You don't need to have more. And when adding annotations, it automatically generates in the background. You don't need to do anything, any XML files more, because at the start of the Spring, you need to create a lot of XML files when you're creating the projects. Now you need only annotations, and when you're adding annotations, you don't need to do anything. Okay, here is more, and for our goal, we're creating the project, and here is IntelliJ IDEA screen. You're able to use the internet version also here, and to pick that dependencies. Spring Boot DevTools. It helps to recompile the file without restarting your application. For example, Java file, if you're fixing something, you're able to recompile and to get the result updated in your browser. Lombok, remove as much boilerplate from Java. It's used also in Java projects a lot because you don't need to write like getters, setters to create constructors. You're just adding annotations and you're creating some good stuff. And it's easier to create a builder pattern. By default, you only adding at builder, and you will get the builder pattern created automatically. Spring configuration processor, it's for auto completion. It's not a big deal if you not pick it here, that one dependency. Here is the C developer tools. Now we creating the Spring web application, and when you picking the Spring web, you will get all dependencies prepared to create your Spring web application. For example, you need a web server or application server, sorry. Application server by default is Tomcat in Java. And now we need, of course, if we are creating MVC, we need to display data in views. By default, there is die-my-leaf template engine, but we use Mustache template engine. Or you pick anyone. And for SQL, we picking the Spring Data Java Persistent API. And then we use the MySQL driver because we would like to use or mimic as a remote database. I pick different database because we're able to, for test purpose, use H2 database, which is also by default able to use in memory database or embedded database or remote database. But for our purpose, we use the open source database MySQL. I don't know, in college it's also really popular database. In PHP also, when you start learning, of course you're able to Postgre or any different taken, but MySQL also is popular, like a classic database. Okay. And of course, how to mimic this MySQL? It's remote. We need to create, doesn't matter in local or in remote, the database software and run it. And I recommend to use the software for the MySQL. Of course, you're able to download directly MySQL server, but for our small purpose, better to use XAMPP. Here is a XAMPP tool, which helps to run a web server. Like when you need to run PHP files, you need to run Apache, and we run MySQL. Because MySQL software admin tool is online using the PHP language, we need to use Apache also, and we look into database in browser. And we get Tomcat. For our web application, we don't use Apache. From here, we use the Tomcat web application server. And when you're running your project, you're running Tomcat instead of Apache. And here it's only for MySQL PHP MyAdmin tool online to see the MySQL database user interface and to create some tables or databases. Okay, for our package structure, maybe this here. For our package structure, I recommend to create that structure to easily control your classes. First, we need to create controller, data, domain, repository, service, and that's it. And of course, how to create this? First, we need to create our project. File, new project. If you already use tool online and use different ID, just wait here and I show how to create in IntelliJ. You see Spring Initializer. Here it's that page. You pick the version, you hit next, and here you will get your group artifact. I'll equal T college app. And here it's like product list. Product list in Vico. Product list in Vico. Main and project, Java, jar, Java version 8, demo Spring Boot application demo, and hit next. And here you will get the same stuff which you already see in web browser. And we picking the Spring Boot Dev Tools, Lombok, helps reduce boilerplate code, as you see. Configuration. From web we picking web. From SQL we picking Spring Data JPA and MySQL driver. And for our template engines, you see here it's 4. Of course, there is more than 4, but I'm picking the Mustache. And when you're picking this stack of your application, we hit next. And we're creating finish. This window. Okay, here hiding. And when it's resolving dependencies, wait a few seconds. After they finish this, I recommend to click the fix if you use ID, configure automatically to fix this problem with your antivirus program. And here by default, you need to know when you create a Maven project, there is POM file. It's a base configuration file where you find your dependencies here. And dependencies, you see a lot of dependencies. And when you need to remove or add more dependencies, you're adding here, dependencies section. That's it. And in source, we see the main. In main, we see the Java. And at the moment, we have only the Spring Boot main. And here is marked as a Spring Boot application. And when you're running this, you're running everything like Tomcat web server, and you will get by default the working web application. Of course, without any web pages, but is it running working web application. When you have the plain empty project. And now we need to move forward. We need a controller, data, domain, repository, service. We creating like package, controller, and later I explain why we need this. Repository. Domain, it's you able to name it like entity, model, or domain. It's really really familiar names. Service, it's like business logic, and we need data. Data is like demo data. Data is for demo purpose. Okay, when you have like this, you need to add some configurations. First, you need to run your database. Okay, when you're running this database, you first need to download the XAMPP. You download XAMPP here, and when you have the XAMPP, you just running your XAMPP soft. Here is XAMPP control panel, and here you will see the start button, start a page, start MySQL. And here you will find the admin. In admin page, you will find your databases. At the moment we, for example, creating new application, and here you're able to create new database. We're creating database, for example, products. Great. Okay, products database is created. There is no tables. As you see here, is empty. Yes. That's it. We run it MySQL. You need to always run this service, because here it's like if you have a database in online, you don't need to run it. It's automatically run it online somewhere. Use as a remote database. At the moment, we use the local database. Okay, now we moving to more details. We just need to add some configuration. As you see here, Spring Data Source, local host, and where to find application properties. By default, you will get the application properties page. And here you will find Spring Data Source URL, Spring Data Source password. By default, you will always call it localhost 3306, because you will find here your port for the database, and you need, of course, I will maybe just copy this URL address, because you need this URL address. Here is connection string. And instead student.db, we use products database. Here's a link, password. There is no password added. And you need to add it username, Spring Data Source. Or I don't know how it's playing. Better to just copy this. Username by default root, when you installing the XAMPP, by default root. And here we're adding the MySQL connection. If we are running, we try to look, there is any problems added or no. For first time when you running the project, takes a while. And later we see the result. If everything works fine, you don't see any warnings. If you're removing this code and try to run it without database connection string, you will get some problems here, and you see failed to configure data source URL, failed blah type to low. And then you need to add this URL, because you need a database connection. You need to add the driver here. Oh, sorry. Need to add a driver, and to add this, I'm just copy here. And for live and restart, you may be able to remove it. Here a driver, class name driver, and JPA generate title true, and Hibernate auto create drop. When you running your project, you always, when you finish work with that session and project running or starting, it's automatically dropping the table and creating the new one and adding the data. Or you're just dropping the table, for example. And here, of course, you will not drop the table if you're able to use the update, or able to use create update, validate, none. We're using the dropping table because we use the demo data to appending this data, and when we appending data, it's too much records. We need only the few records added for testing purpose. And for Mustache, you always need to add a prefix. Class path see the templates package, and you added suffix for your file. If you would like to use HTML file, you're adding like HTML, and then you're able to create HTML pages as you always like, and adding in that page the Mustache code, or just Mustache, or any, doesn't matter. You're able to sync your own type. And here you need only that dependencies to create a working web application. No depends or configurations. Now we need to at the moment maybe to look here. Maybe we'll look later here. Now we creating like a demo project, and first step, you need to create the entities. Entities is creating a domain package. You creating like product, because for product list is product. We creating private string name, private string details, or maybe private, I don't know, private int, private double price, maybe name. And when you're creating the entities, you need to always to create ID. Private long recommended because ID it's long. Price name, and here you're able to create URL or image URL. Price name, image URL address. And when you're using the Lombok, you don't need to create your own getter setters. You need to add it like data. That's it. When you're adding data, you're creating getter setters. And when you're adding at builder, you're creating builder design pattern, able to create the objects without without calling constructors, able to use the builder pattern. And now we also need to mark here as entity. And when you have entity, it means that it connects to database as a database table. And here you need to mark ID like a primary key. ID, JavaX persistence, and you need to add generate value strategy, or Oh, sorry, forget how to write this. Where is the entity? Generate values, try to generation type. Yes, generation type auto. It's like when you're creating your records, it's automatically adding like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. by this when using the strategy. And now we need to add it constructor. By default, you need empty constructor, and when using this Lombok, you're able to create all args constructor or no args constructor. All args constructor. And when you're creating this, you will get your all args, no args, etc. It automatically generates this constructor with all fields and a constructor without any fields. Entity means that creates the entity of the table, and builder, design pattern builder. Data creates getters and setters. And you're adding only annotations, and it's creating a lot of boilerplate. When you have the domain like model product, you need to create the repository. When you're creating a repository, you need to create interface and call it product repository. And you need only extends JPA repository. And when you're extending, you will get all the basic database select methods implemented automatically. Here you need to add object like our product, and here you need to add ID long. That's it. And of course, if you have the more complex select statements in database, you're able to write custom queries or to write as a method. And at the moment, we don't use any different queries. And how to use this repository, and maybe we'll look inside here, and here you will find your find all by ID, list, save all these functions added in this JPA repository. And you automatically get this functionality by the single line extending the JPA repository. That's it for our repository. It's like data from the database. And here we're creating our service. Service is business logic, like product service. When you're creating interface, you need to create the product service iterable. It's like basic collection of products, for example. And you would like to get all products. Our goal, of course, and we need optional parameter. Optional, it means like when you get not null, you get some value. If there is no record, you will get default value. Like well, doesn't matter any name. For example, if we need a product name and there is no name, we get unknown name, for example, instead of null pointer exception. And optional is also product. And maybe we just use optional Java util, and we find product by ID maybe, and ID is long ID. And here we're creating our interface, which says that which type of functions we need to implement in our program. When we have the product repository, data, service as a logical business logic, we creating another class for implementation, like product implementation, product service. In product service implementation, we need to mark as a service, because in Spring that means here is a business logic added in that class. And as you see, it's also connected to the Spring main container, and you don't need to initialize this. As you see here, it's like dependency injection. And now we need to use this. First, you need to implement product service, and you need to implement two methods. And for example, you need first, what you need to do here. First, you need to inject, or using dependency injection, the repository, because you need some data. When you're using the business logic, you need to inject some data from the database, and you need to create private final product repository. And when you have the product repository, if you're using the Lombok, it's easier to add it required args constructor. That's it. Because in all old Spring framework, you need to write auto-wired and to create the constructors or setters. But when you're using the Lombok, you don't need to do anything. You need to create only the single field and to say the required args constructor, and it's automatically creating that constructor with single parameter repository. And here we're calling our repository, and we need to find all. That's it. And here we need to return our product repository, find by ID. That's it. We have our service implemented. Get all products, find product by ID. And we done our service. We also have get product, find product by ID. We have the repository, we have the domain, like our object, price name, image URL. And now our next step is to create some demo data. First, we're creating the Java some class, it's like demo data, and this class, I think is class. I'm not sure it's class. This class implements. Okay, we need required args constructor. We need to implement application listener. Application listener have different events. We use context refresh event. There is stop, start, etc. And when you use this, when you're running applications, automatically execute this line. For our purpose, we need to run test data to add to database. Here we just use private final product repository, product repository, and we have also injected in our this. And you see, you don't need to create any new keyword, etc. It's automatically done by the Spring framework. In this field, you need to write a logic to add some data to the database. First, we need to use our builder product equals product builder, and like price 52, name like Corsair RAM 8 GB, and we have more image URL address. And for demo purpose, I use random image. Lore Pixum, you're able to get URL address which generates random images. Here we're adding the random image. And when you have like this, enter, you need to add like this build. We have the name, price, and image, and build is creating the product object. For example, we need some more data than one. We just able to write a for loop, added like 10 records. And when you're adding these 10 records, we generating random images. Here it's, of course, maybe we need to random names. Maybe create string names equals, we need to create some different name. Razor, Lenovo, Acer. That's it. And here we maybe added instead of concrete name, adding some names dot new random next int names site length. Okay, we're adding the random name from here. We adding, for example, new random next double, I'm not sure. Let's see the random price, and when you're generating using the builder pattern, it's easier to use it, create object. And here we would like to save our data. Use product repository. Save product. And here you make your save function working like a charm. Here you see no added any functionality, but when using the data, you calling the save and automatically save to database. And now we try to look at our database run project and to see is it working or not. Okay, it's running, and try to products. Oh, now it's updated. And as you see here, it's Hibernate sequence. Some Hibernate saves some table and product table. And product table, you'll see here ID, image, name, and price. Why it's empty? Browse. Why is empty? I'm not sure now. New name, price. Let's look into required. Oh, we need mark as a component, sorry. Add component. Because here it's not component, it's not connected, and it's not used. Okay, now we should get some data in our database. Browse. And as you see here, we get some records. Pick some, 300 Lenovo, raise Lenovo prices. We get some data in database. Okay, everything is fine. Now our goal is to display this data. And to display this data, we need a template and we need a controller class. We're creating the controller class product controller. Enter. You need to mark a controller. Sorry, controller. And when you use controller, you need to create service. Product service, not implementation, but using this. Service, I opened that example, required args constructor. We need also to use required args constructor. Required args constructor. And we have injected our product service class. How to display the data? You need to have the path, request mapping. By default, it's a home page, root, and here you need to write a method. String index, for example, and return index. And this line, public if you want, and means that you, when you requesting local host, you'll get return the index template. At the moment, the template, there is not exist any template. We need to create a first template. We're creating the file. We're creating the index Mustache. If you pick the HTML, it's better than use the HTML template. And when you're creating this, you're creating like the web page empty without any information added here. And if you're running, you're just checking our page is empty now. It's 0, nothing is happening here. If you're adding some text, and we need to click Ctrl-Shift F9 to recompile this page, and here click refresh, you will see the result updated. When using live reload plugin, you're able to automatically reload the page. Okay, now we need to display the real data. To display the real data, you need the Mustache template name. Mustache template engine syntax. You need to know that syntax a bit. And to display some information, you don't need, of course, some huge knowledge. But at the moment, we need to display in our model some data, like the student list, or in our product list. First, we need, of course, to create the another templates. I recommend just click the copy and just paste. Create like a header and paste footer. When we have this templates, you need to add like this and that means header. I'm not sure it's that way. Oh, it's wrong way. Here it's like by default include header and you need to include footer. Footer, yes, header, footer, and here is a body. Here is your index template. Oh, sorry. Here is your index page. And for header and footer, I just prepare some code. I don't want to just show. I use the Bootstrap, and here in header Mustache file, I adding some HTML code. In header, I adding some beginnings, like we using Bootstrap CSS, the CSS style, and in footer we adding final script for the Bootstrap in footer. More text. Why we need this? Because if you have more templates, you need to see the same page. You need copy this inclusions. Instead inclusions copying, you just adding header and footer, and you getting the code inside here. And if you need some navigation, I added also the nav from the Bootstrap, and you're able to add like also in the header some navigation. We have the home and we have the about. When we running new, because we added more resources, here it's not a big deal. You're able to write normal HTML files, normal HTML syntax, but templates helps you add the code from the Java side. From the server side, we adding here later. We have the basic template like Vilniaus Collegia or Vilniaus College University of Applied Science. Ctrl+Shift F9. Okay, we just running this and we get updated, as you see. Oh, sorry. About is not working because there is no about template, yes? In home page, we would like to show some information. How to do this? You need first to create in product controller, instead simple index, we need to add a modal. Because we need to pass data to the view, we need to pass the modal attribute. And here you need to pass modal, add attribute, and here products. Here is name of variable which passing to view, and here you calling the service to get all products. We reading from database all records and passing to the view to the index view. That's it. When you're moving to home, you're returning the index view, and as products we need to use in our view. And here you need to use the basic syntax. Products. Oh, sorry. And here means like, because there is no for, if, else, and etc. statement, it's use simple logic. You just means here is for loop. This line is means the for loop. And now I need a Bootstrap to create the product list, for example. bootstrap card view. Just copy some cards. Okay, we need few fields. We have price, we have price, name, and maybe we pick that one. Okay, we just pick this cap. We're adding inside here because here it's a loop. And we need to add the image. If you're using the template engine, you need to write directly the correct name of your field in Java. Like you have the product, you have the image URL. If you write the image, it's not working. You need to add image URL here in our template. Index, and here we're adding image URL. Here we adding maybe some another field. We have the body, we adding doesn't matter, it's maybe P. Card text. Oh, it's why we need it. Price. Oh, sorry. Price, and after this we need to write euro. Yes. And here we're adding the price tag. And some quick we adding some name, of course. We need price and we need name. Of course we need name, maybe it's before the price. Name. Product name, image, name and price. Yes. Here name, price, image URL. And we create a template which is iterates through the products. And when you're iterating through the products, you get it from controller in the main page. Adding this list from database. And now we need to check is it working or not. Control Shift F9 and try to see the result. Oh, maybe you need to recompile or rerun project. I don't know why it's. Oh, because we're adding some code into the controller. We need also to recompile also a controller class. I forget that. And we get our images for, of course, the same images. We need different URLs, but you get images from the database. And if you would like to click and show some information, you need to create some different view, and also you need to pass some ID you by default able to get. And here maybe when you click on the image, try create a ref equals to add some link to the image. And here we need to add our ID. And here we need to create some, for example, details. For example, details template, yes. When we're clicking the href details and number, we get some details. Click and get details 1, as you see path, yes. How to create this path? We go to the product and to controller, we creating the path like details, and when you have ID variable, we need to add it in that brackets, and we creating the public string, doesn't matter name, it's not really matter, details, and we need also add path variable, annotation, path variable, and name, ID, and here of course is, I'm not sure it's long, maybe. Yeah, you need concrete type, which type you need to as an ID here. Return details, and here we need to pass our model attribute. Details ID, product, and here you need to add our product service, find product by ID. I'm not sure it's now working or not. Later we see, we try it now to write. If you use the optional, you're able to use optional to write or else get method, but I don't try it at the moment. We try to see it's working or not. We just copying the template, pasting template. Maybe we're able to copy from the main. Copy, paste, and add it as details. Details template. We need header and footer, and we don't need this inside here. And we don't need, I think, that also. Like we just showing H1 product. I forget what we getting now. Just try to call it product. Also, or just we adding as an attribute. We don't need to the list product. We need to look which running project, which object we get through the Java controller class. Oh yeah, as you see, we get the object, optional product ID 1, price that, name Acer, image URL address. Of course, we need to get, is it possible to get name? I'm not sure it's working because some templates have that structure. No, it's not possible like this. Okay, when you're passing this data, you need to think which type of data you're returning here. Maybe you need to create a product. Like this, and here added some name, price. I also really not sure now because this template engine started learning yesterday and it's really not hard to use, but you need some documentation before you use it. And now we try to see is it working or not. No method field name. Okay. Okay, now problem. We just for the controller, maybe we change instead of find product by ID or guess or get name, for example. Okay, maybe is it working? Of course, it's optional, as you see, but we didn't use optional at the moment. And we try to move into details, and instead of this each one, we just leave that same. For your goal, you maybe try to use different implementation of the same template engine to read some documentation and try to display the objects, some fields in the separate page. But now, as you see, we get the product now. If you back here, log it there, you will get some details. Of course, it's not the nicest way to display the data, but you're able to fix it and create the nice stuff. And if you need to add a about page, you need to create only the about template. You just copy, like index also, copy, paste, about, and instead of empty, we just able to say that here is about page. About page, and in your controller, you just creating. You need to close this. You're creating request mapping. You adding the path, about, public, string, about. And if you're not passing any data, you're just returning the view about. And for you, I recommend you to create different methods, like add delete method also in the service, and try to understand the basic structure of this. When you're adding like this, you just, I'm running, for me it's easier than to recompile the whole files. And when you're running, you will get the result about this, showing the about page. About page, as you see. And you're able to add your page here. Of course, here it's link. It's really not so hard to use it, but first you need to understand the basic structure of Spring Boot MVC project. And as you see here, you need to know application properties. You need to add remote database data, connection string. You need to choose the correct driver for your database. You need to activate Spring Data strategy for Hibernate, because if you're not adding this line, it's not working. Here it's not really needed, that line. And must prefix, you need to show the path to the template. And you need the suffix to use the Mustache template. If you're using different, you're adding HTML and working the same way, also in HTML files. Static is static context, like static, I know that CSS files, JavaScript files, images, etc. Like able to use as static resources. Here, as you see, Spring Boot is a main application to run it. And when you have like this, you're able to run it your app. You need to, of course, the demo data, it's not really needed. You're able to have the Access database and to use Access database data. If you would like to use this, you're able to do also like this. IntelliJ IDEA, of course, lets you extract from the Access database data if you need entities. and to generate entities, but when you're creating the new software, you're just thinking from the start. And domain, it's entity. Of course, you're able to add more entities, and entities maybe have some relationships, and that here is a basic database knowledge. You need to know some about the relationship databases. And for repository, you need only extend JPA repository, and if you need some methods, you're able to add some methods to find in different way. We don't create a REST web service. We create like a full stack app in the single project. If you have the web service, you're able to create a paging and sorting repository, and to also in this web project also able to add it with the paging. If you have the 10 products, you need to add pagination. And for today, I'm not showing how to do because its stream is ending at the moment. There is a few minutes left, and maybe next week or later we see a REST API web service, or just we try to append this project and try to add more functionality or more entities. At the moment, it's controller to control your views, to display the data, to get from your business logic all products, or find by ID or any logic, and display in your templates. And product service, your business logic. Here is implementation of business logic. And for the templates, you need to know the syntax of template engine. How to use it? It mimics like the same. You have the HTML, CSS working as you already know how to use it, but you need to add some code from the Java. Main goal is to use some tags, which helps to add the code from the server side and to render the web page. And how it's rendering, it's like Mustache, which maybe is here, demo. As you see here, you have Mustache template like this. Like we have also our templates. And when you go here, it's like in JSON, you see like this structure, and when you render the template, you render an HTML file. That happens with our page also. Where is our page localhost? Here. When you're running Mustache, is not is given in HTML generated. You will see here it's like generated HTML, and you will get normal links, not templates. Any templates didn't left. You will get the header inclusion, and you will get the footer inclusion here, and you will get the generated HTML file in the server side, not in the client side. And the server, of course, it's better performance for users, because when you're rendering the server, it's faster rendering. And thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, please ask through the email, or write the comments, or try to reach in different technique, and try to implement your own using the Spring Boot and simple web page, which is able to use the nicer I don't know, UI, because at the moment it's not really a nice UI, but the basic functionality is working now. And if we adding more time here, we able to create a nicer looking web page using the Bootstrap basic framework for the UI creation. And thank you for your attention, and see you next week.